Welcome to Small Business Accelerator, the podcast where we help small businesses create more new opportunities and win more new business. Today's topic is New Opportunity Process Buckets. Join our hosts, Blair, Carey, founder of InsideCRO, and David Wuensch, founder of EPOCH Sales Management Solutions, as they explore the 5 new opportunity process buckets in the EPOCH Sales Management Solutions 3-part formula to a healthy sales pipeline.
Wow. Hey, great to see you again, Blair.
And you too, man. How have you been?
Hey, we just continue to move along and keep moving. It's all going well. I am excited today to share my concept of the 5 new opportunity process buckets. We've covered 3 of the foundational elements around get the culture right, get the targeting right, get the messaging right. So I guess before we get going here, any questions or comments that you have on the topic of these 5 new opportunity process buckets?
I think, and I love what we're going to talk about here today. I think the thing that is the most interesting thing for small business owners is that it can be somewhat overwhelming, right? When we start talking about putting all these processes in place and putting things together and getting things moving, it can be absolutely overwhelming to say, well, where do I start and how do I start? Literally, all I want to do is sell more floor tiles or sell more software services or put in more engineering plans or architecture firms, et cetera, architectural plans. Realistically, what we want to do is we want to sort of debunk those myths and say, hey, man, you don't need to do that. Here's a process. So I'm hoping that by the end of today's session, we'll have a roadmap that people will be able to follow.
I can't agree with you more. Trying to figure out how we simplify all this stuff is the answer. And as we continue to move forward, how do we take the complication out of it and make it simple? I think that's a really good point. So, well, should we, I guess, maybe share with our listeners and viewers what the heck we're talking about when we talk about new opportunity process
Absolutely.
buckets?
Let's do it.
So, existing client customer success is the first one on the list, followed by intentional networking and referrals, followed by multi-touch, multi-channel targeted sales outreach, speaking about thought leadership, and then leveraging an inbound marketing engine. And Blair, I guess, what I believe is there's a long list of quote unquote prospecting activities, lead gen activities, whatever you want to call them. But I believe for a small business owner, they can all get put into 5 buckets. And I think this ends up being a way that we can help direct and manage our sales people to spend the right amount of time in the right place looking for new business.
100%.
One of my other concepts on this area is the fact that, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Have some diversity with respect to that. You probably want to focus on 3 or 4 of them. You probably don't want any one of them to be more than 50% of your targeted new opportunity leads.
Fair. That's fair.
Feedback, question, comments on that initial
No,
part?
I agree with you. I think too often small business owners are relying on 1 or 2 processes. I know I'm as guilty of it as anybody else. They forget to keep the other parts of the engine moving. We're so busy running around dealing with our clients and helping and how we're serving our clients, acquiring new clients, and dealing with the day-to-days of, accounting and HR and legal and all that kind of stuff. If we're not actively prospecting every single day, then we're making ourselves a mistake. And choosing which one of these 5 buckets or the 5 or 2 or 3 is probably the best way for us to go about doing that.
Yeah. So, of course, now when the business owner is putting on his or her sales manager hat, this whole concept of building a healthy sales pipeline, creating more new opportunities, there is no more important place, in my opinion, than here to align sales activities and marketing activities. This is the critical juncture point if you want to get the most out of everything. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Absolutely.
So the question is, where does one start? And you and I have talked about it before. A lot of times I put people into a couple scenarios. Scenario one I refer to as the stuck on a plateau. Is the stuck on a plateau one. And wouldn't you know it, the building wants to make some announcements right in the middle of our podcast. That just is not fair. I'm gonna have to talk to Eric about this. This is real world situations, huh?
Exactly.
Anyway, but one of the scenarios has to do with being stuck on a plateau, and whether it's stuck on a plateau or they just are trying to do more from wherever they're at. That would be one. And the other scenario I look at is kind of the startup mentality, whether that's starting up a new company, starting up a new product, or starting up a new market. I think each of those could be looked at, a little bit differently as we go. Does thoughts or comments there, Blair?
No, I agree with you. I mean, whether if you're stuck on a plateau, basically what you're saying is that I'm either happy there or I need to make some changes in order to go there, in order to go to the next level. And this is no different than what happens, when I was a high performance athlete or when I was coaching high performance athletes, I would expect that sometime in February or March, my team would hit some kind of training plateau. Right. And the only way for me to shake them up would be to actually do something that would totally change their mindset and regimen so that they could actually start achieving significantly greater gains than they would in the previous period. And so we're just talking about the exact same thing, right? Whether you're a startup, meaning you've only been in business for less than 2 years, or you're been in business for 15 years, you've been operating in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and are thinking about going to a little bit south. Maybe there's a good product market fit for you in Waco or in Texarkana, or who knows, maybe someplace in New Mexico might be a good fit for what you're working on. And you're just not sure how to go there, where to get there, what the methodology and approach is.
Right. So let's go with the stuck on a plateau. And stuck on a plateau and wanting to break through the plateau. Because if you're stuck on a plateau and happy there, then good for you.
You're not on a plateau, my friend.
You're not stuck on a plateau.
Exactly.
You're happy on a plateau.
Exactly.
So the stuck on the plateau, and you and I have discussed this before. Well, to me, the first place to start is taking a review and understanding where you're at with all your existing clients. Bucket number one is your first priority, because if there is a way to get more juice out of the squeeze, doing it at the customer success existing client level is the first place to go, and having
100%.
Building a playbook or a toolkit around that. And we're going to have follow-on discussions about that. But I recommend making sure you've done that. Anything you'd like to share with our audience at this time on that one?
Well, I agree with that, but also just to extend it one step further, is there something that you can provide to your existing clients that the market is looking for that you can actually use as an add-on to what your extension is? Yeah. That's the question, right? Yeah. That's a good way to grow and add more value. A lot of people, what they try to do is they try to segment their customer base into A, B, and C clients. A clients being the most valuable clients, B clients being the most sort of potential for growth into A clients, and then C clients are the people that, order from you 5 months ago but haven't ordered from you 12 months before that, and you're not really going to do a lot of work with them, and I have a different view in that you need to think about it. What is the potential to grow a specific account? That's how you need to think about it. If you're getting the maximum from your client and they're your A client, that's great. They're your A client, but guess what? You're not getting any more business from them.
Right. But I guess the thought is, in applying the 80-20 rule to your clients is to take a look at that 20% of, okay, can you get more out of them is the first step. And then the second one is, if we do take the ABC concept, if I'm looking at my B clients, which one of those do I want to try to turn into an A client? And then
Right,
anyway,
exactly.
right.
Or
And
which
so
ones have the psychographics or the demographics that look
Right.
like your A clients, right?
So that's in my opinion, if you're stuck on a plateau, the first thing you want to do is, can you get some low-hanging fruit by capturing more new opportunities from your existing clients? And whether that's upsell, cross-sell, just better sell, what, or and it's probably cross-sell, upsell with respect to your A clients. The B clients is really just trying to move them forward and working them harder. The ones that fit that could fit that A profile. So that's bucket number one. I think the priority is there. So you're stuck on a plateau. Where do you go next in your mind?
Well, next is you try, as you said. For me, if I was stuck in a plateau, I would try to encourage and create intentional referrals, right? I would spend a certain percentage of my time working on the intentional networking and referral business. I would need to, and that means you need to understand what your offering is going to be to the people that are going to potentially be referrers to you. Right. And those could be existing clients, those could be partners, those could be colleagues, like you and I are colleagues, Dave. If I have clients that are a good fit for you, I'm sending them to you. I'm not sending them to anybody else, right? If you have people who know that work within what we do, you're going to send them to me.
And of course, and I agree with you. I believe the intentional networking referral is priority number 2. And from the way I look at it, I believe there's 2 flavors of intentional networking. One is trying to understand who your strategic centers of influence are and working those. And the other is actually taking your regular prospecting, but just adding in, who is a second connection, and go seek introductions. And so, I have a process I call link networking, which is really all about developing a prospect list of second connections and reaching out to first connections and working on that relationship, and then seeking the introduction, and building from there.
And how long should that process take, David?
Those are first connections along the way. One of the things I like about that process is it is okay to be primary email there. I only invest 1 or 2 phone calls max in that process. I rely on the connection strength to allow email to work. And again, my process there is I'm trying to solidify that relationship with the first connection to help provide, introductions going forward. I'll give you an example. Go ahead.
I'll give you a good example. Someone that I'm connected with on LinkedIn, have been connected with her for quite a while. Had some kind of anniversary or something that was going on within her organization. Some kind of I forget what it was, and I hadn't spoken to her literally probably in 5 or 6 years. The first time that we were talking was when I was part of a leadership of an organization. I was looking to bring them in, and she was sort of my sales contact at the time. She moved on, I've moved on, blah, blah, blah. And I literally saw the note on LinkedIn. I clicked it, the thing on my phone, and I said, hey, we haven't talked in a long time. Looks like you're doing great. If there's anything I can do, by all means, just reach out to me. And it was a video, and she got the video, and it got delivered. Now, she hasn't got back to me, but guess what? That's what I call that personal touch. Right? Yeah. You're doing the exact same thing, just with email.
Yeah. So, but again, one of my things that I'm trying to do is be intentional about it, because I'm reaching out to people that I know are connected to my prospects, and that's or that they are a strategic center of influence, which I've qualified in a different area because of, basically common customer sets and things of that sort. So again, so our recommendation to the business owners that are stuck on a plateau is go work your existing clients, go work an intentional networking / referral program and so what we're really leveraging people we know to grow more business.
Right.
And
Whether
in today's
it's existing,
noisy world, that's the
whether
best.
Exactly, whether it's existing customers or people who are connected to potential customers. That's what you're talking about.
So now, and this you and I may not agree on this next priority, but that's good. That's what helps makes the world go round. So what would you say if you're a small business owner? And of course, everybody's going to have different situations. You've built your toolkit and playbook, and you got your salespeople working a good existing client process. You've got them working a good intentional networking referral process. What's the next one of these buckets you would turn your efforts to as a small business owner?
For me, okay, as a small business owner, right, understanding where my prospects live and how they operate, right, I would look at an inbound marketing engine.
Well, then we do not disagree. I agree with you 100%. Now, again, share with me a little bit more on your thoughts there.
Well, look, first of all, if you've done the work and you've got existing customers to either expand the scope of your offer of their purchases or offering to you, been intentional in connecting with new prospects that are related to them or look like them or whatever the case is, you've built the content that you need so you can create the social proof to drive forward who you are and what you're about.
Right.
Before we get to this multi-touch, multi-channel, targeted sales outreach approach, we need social proof as one of our main weapons. Right? And that comes in the form of messaging, and that comes in the form of case studies, and that comes in the form of battle cards, and all these kinds of things that we need in order to be really effective in that outreach process. Well, guess what? You need to build that for the inbound marketing engine anyways. You've already started building that content base. Why not put it in the inbound marketing engine? Now, by the way, you're not going to get anything from the inbound marketing engine for 3 to 4 months
or more. You see, the other thing I would have to say about this is the first two buckets as a business owner, I have focused my salespeople on sales activity. So now, who am I working with to work on my marketing resources? See, now the beauty, I can divide and conquer. Now, we want to connect. We want to make sure the messaging's right. It's all aligned and that we're supporting each other, but you can use different resources to build your inbound marketing engine along the way. Now, of course, as you know, for that business owner that's saying, where do I go? What do I do? I've tried hiring marketing consultants. It hasn't worked in the past. One of my recommendations is go spend some time with Donald Miller and his Building a Story brand and Marketing Made Simple, and bring those concepts and principles to your marketing people, your marketing consultant, and be engaged in the process. Just like, we talk about, we want the business owner to own the targeting list, or to own the process of the targeting list and own the process of the sales messaging. It's the same in the inbound marketing. Own it. You've got a marketing consultant that'll help you and advise you. But again, I think what Donald Miller brings in Building a Story brand and in Marketing Made Simple make a lot of sense. I also plus
the other thing. I know you're going to give yourself a shameless plug there, David. Sorry, you can shameless plug yourself in just a second.
No, go ahead.
I think the other thing that is the inbound marketing engine is the one thing that you as the business leader can detach yourself from your 1 or 2 people that are working in your sales team. They're not going to be part of the inbound marketing engine. You can teach them, train them how to expand accounts and how to do intentional marketing, and you can manage it and you can monitor it and you can coach on it. But ultimately, that work needs to be done by them.
Yep.
It can't just be done by you. Right.
Yeah.
And the inbound marketing engine, that comes from you. That's the leadership tone from the top type discussions that need to happen in order for you to move to the next thing.
And you can leverage a different set of resources from a marketing perspective than these outbound sales hunters or these people that are out creating new opportunities. So I believe those are the first 3. And yes, I was going to add, once you've done Donald Miller and done story brand and marketing made simple, and you're looking for a tool to do it with, for a small business owner, I think HubSpot is as good a tool to use, and I'll be happy to talk to anybody about that, but that's besides the point. But again, I think getting started, those become the first three. And then then what it amounts to is when your salespeople are doing everything they can as far as existing clients and intentional networking. Now we can layer on the multi-touch, multi-channel targeted sales outreach. Correct. We can hire somebody like you to do it. We can build a sales development rep organization. We can initially have some of our salespeople spend an hour and a half to 3 hours a day doing it. Whatever that. However, there's multiple ways to do that.
100%.
But now is the time to start getting your salespeople focused on trying to figure out how to turn a good list. And you leverage the persona information you've gotten from marketing. You leverage the information you learned from existing clients and intentional networking. But go ahead, you want to say something?
No, I agree with you. But the bigger point is that so especially if you're a business that's been in business for 5, 10, 15 years, and you've reached sort of a saturation point and you're not sure where to go next, going within your own organization is the easiest path, but it's also the most difficult, because, by the way, you have the most crud built up in those relationships, right? And there are many organizations that don't want to disturb the relationship that's paying you $1,500 a month or $2,000 a month, even though your pricing now is $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month, because you've not really done the service work that you were supposed to be doing all along that journey.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question, Blair. If a client comes to you to hire you and they have really worked bucket number one, existing clients, and bucket number two, intentional networking, and they've worked a bucket on building an inbound marketing engine, how much better of a client are they to you when they come? Now they're ready to go outbound.
So much better. They have a significantly better understanding of what the jobs are to be done of their individual of the individual personas in there. They have an understanding of what the account map looks like, who the typical buyer is, who the typical funder is, who the typical blocker and influencers are. They understand everything.
See, my thought is that business owner that has worked with business owner / sales manager that has worked those salespeople down the existing client, grow new business and existing clients, intentional networking, and then partnered with a marketing consultant or their own marketing person and built a real inbound marketing engine. And when they've thought through all that process and they come to you, they can help. I think that direct you. I mean, you go do what you do, but they're going to be in a much better place to help guide you and lead you to make you be successful for them.
Exactly. I couldn't agree with you more. Like I really, the best clients and the best business owners that I've had the opportunity to engage with are those that have done exactly what you said.
Right.
They've, it could be a startup that's landed its first 5 or 10 clients. Okay. They have an understanding as to who their market is and what the pains are and what they're trying to solve. Right. They've built the inbound marketing engine and it's starting to work, but they need to go faster.
I guess the issue is when they put it out on the front end and haven't done the work ahead of time, and then they want results right away. I think it's a problem.
Well, I think it's about managing expectations better, right? Yeah. Like, and one of the things that we've seen is as outbound outreach efforts have like quintupled over the last 24 months, right? Prospects are tired of the noise, right? Like I remember one VP of sales told me, I get 40 of these calls a day, right? Like,
yep. Nope.
And if someone's getting 40 calls a day, how many cold emails are they getting?
4,000. But anyway, so then that leaves us speaking about thought leadership, whether that's podcasts, webinars, events, public speaking. And to me, that's going back and putting a megaphone on everything we did on the inbound marketing engine. It helps amplify the previously published content.
I thought
and it personifies it. Go ahead.
I would go even further. What I would say is it validates the intentional networking of the existing client work that you're already doing.
Right.
It says, yeah, I'm working with the top firm. I'm working with the top guys. I'm working with the people that are making the most. And a lot of small business owners are afraid when people within their organization decide to step out and actually create their own voice in the public persona, because, oh my goodness, he's my employee. Why should someone who's employed by me have a different persona or different view than what's the corporate view? The answer is because everybody has a different view, and they're your representative. And the more voices that are out there in the market representing their viewpoint and your organization, the better.
Okay. So when it comes to breaking through the plateau, we're saying, Mr. Business Owner, get your salespeople build on a super playbook for growing existing client business, growing business through intentional networking and referrals. Get to work on your marketing to build an inbound marketing engine. And some of that potentially could overlap because you're using different resources. Now, you are the common resource, so you got to manage your time in doing that. But it's in that priority. But if you've got the bandwidth to move up bucket number 3 to do it in parallel with 1 and 2, go for it. You don't have to wait on 1 and 2 to execute 3 if you, the business owner, has the bandwidth. But I
think it's not a linear process. You can run some of these things in parallel, right? But you can get overwhelmed by trying to do all of them at the same time.
If you do try to do them all at the same, yes, you're going to get overwhelmed to try and do them all at the same time. I do not recommend that, but be smart about where you're going to, put things on top of each other. And as a business owner, you may need to do them in linear to make it work for you, because you may end up, by slowing down, you may speed up in the end, because each one of these has their own things you need to walk through. And then came back to multi-touch, and then we did speaking, and we did this speaking about thought leadership. Now, let's, do you have anything else you want to say before we go to talk about the startup mentality? Go ahead.
Sure. So I just wanted to, in general, sort of on this whole thought leadership concept, I just wanted to put this out there, okay? And I think I already said this when I said that your other members of your team can be part of the thought leadership process, right? You don't need to lead to be a thought leader.
Right.
You don't need to be the person who's the face of the podcast or the voice of the podcast to be the thought leader.
Right.
You don't need to be the person who's always posting on social to be the thought leader, or writing the blog post to be the thought leader.
And I guess that's a good point with respect to this, is delegation of resources. I mean, the person managing Speak About Thought Leadership is probably the same person you tapped to manage Build an Inbound Marketing Engine. And you as the vision, if you're the visionary of the company, you have a lot to say about that thought leadership. You may or may not be the mouthpiece. There may be somebody else to speak your thoughts, or it may be you, but or it may be multiple people. But yes, you're right. That stuff can get worked out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we want to shift over to startups?
Sure. I mean, so the challenge with the startup mentality, the startup organizations that have been around for a couple of years, and it doesn't really matter what kind of business it is. When we think of startup, we're thinking of these sexy software startups or Internet of Things startups or whatever the heck it is. And, I know a bunch of these kinds of people. The challenge that they have is they don't have existing clients. Right. And so that process is totally gone for them. Right. And thinking about intentional networking, other than being intentional in terms of getting hooked up by people that their investors hook them up with, or having some kind of partnership arrangement or something like that, that's also gone. That doesn't exist either, unless you have a leader who has some gravitas within a particular community or a particular area of the industry, then that's something completely different.
Well, I would look at it a little differently, because I do think that intentional networking is the right first step for the startup company, startup product, startup market. Now, the thing, you may need to be creative in what that looks like. But I mean, again, I think, can you develop strategic centers of influence, and have a group of people that you can be working and going through to get there? And that can, and for every situation that looks different. But if you've got a nucleus of strategic centers of influence, it's a great source to get some leads, to get some referrals, to get started. Again, link networking works no matter what, but you do have to build a network that's applicable, that fits, whether it's people that end up, but anyway, but the key there is, yes, you have to build a network, and then you've got to work on that messaging and get through. But no, I still believe for the startup, intentional networking. Actually, my thought on the startup is, the existing clients, it ends up moving to the end, and you just slide everything up one slot. I mean, that's kind of
interesting. Yeah, I would actually add multi-touch before I would add the inbound marketing. And the only reason why is because then you can start getting access to voice of customer or voice of prospect type conversations going much faster. You can accelerate, you can have 100 conversations with actual prospects in a relatively short period of time.
Right.
You cannot necessarily do that with inbound methodologies.
But I agree with that. I agree. Right. And of course, I guess, again, if I'm a startup, just knowing how long inbound marketing takes, I would want to get on top of that. But again, as we said before, those two may be able to be done in parallel because they're different resources.
Fair enough. If you're a small business owner and you have the resources to allow you to do both of them, then you should.
Right.
You do. It doesn't make any difference though. Like the outbound outreach, multi-touch, multi-channel, targeted approach does need some kind of social proof evidence material in order to create in its messaging. Right. And so the challenge is that if you don't have that, then what do you do about it? Right.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
And that's where a lot of those founders, investors, and teams fail, is they forget that that's what they need. They don't know what their story is. They have a product, or they have a concept of a product, or they built a product, and they know that there is a pain and problem, but they don't know. They're making a hypothesis who has the pain and problem. And until you have 100, and this is what I say, until you have 100 sales conversations, the founder is the main salesperson. And after the founder has had 100 conversations with actual prospects, then they can actually look at hiring people to actually manage their sales process.
Right. Okay. Well, very good.
I love this thing, by the way, that you say no more than 50% of your new opportunities should come from any one bucket. I love that idea, because it tells us that we have to be pushing on all the levers all at the same time.
Right.
Or think about it like in sequence, right?
Right.
Like you don't, as we said, you don't start multi-touch until you at least have done something on the intentional networking side, right? If you have existing customers, you can definitely use that in all frames.
And I get your point and your conversation on the startup as far as the multi-touch, multi-channel, getting that accelerated. I mean, and there's certain things you may compress certain things along the way, but again, I would still stand by my get your salespeople focused on intentional networking. Figure out what marketing resources you have to get started on building inbound. Make sure the sales messaging and marketing messaging is aligned, and then get to work on multi-touch, multi-channel as quickly as possible and start testing stuff. I mean, because you're right. It is the best test ground you've got for your sales messaging, because you can have more conversations faster. I agree with that. I certainly agree with that. But
yeah,
all right,
exactly.
Well,
From a roadmap perspective, I think what we've laid out here is that if you're an existing business and looking to go into, if you're an existing business, you've been in business for 15 or 20 years, and you're looking to take your business into a new area, you're basically a startup, right? Now, that you have some value in that you have some existing customers, but people in Dallas don't really relate so well to people in Laredo, Texas, right?
Yep.
Or they don't relate so well. People in Austin don't necessarily relate so well to people in Little Rock, right?
Right.
And so the question is does that make a good fit? I remember 5-6 years ago when I was working for a company doing their revenue operations, and I was basically running their we started to build a direct sales channel, and we built it in a region in the state of Ohio because our best customer and strongest advocate was in Cincinnati. So now we were talking to all of the municipalities and regions in Ohio, and I remember one guy said to me, he said, I don't have any. He's like, I have 3,000 people living here. Yeah, I'm running this, but I don't have any of the problems that Cincinnati has. And that's when the light bulb went on for me and said, hey, wait a second here, man. You got to tailor your message so that it makes sense to who it's.
Yeah. It's not all geography. I mean, there's you sort of things along the way. Any other ahas or takeaways or whatever as far as the concept of these 5 buckets and really, it's really at the point in this step is helping people determine where am I going to start and where am I going to go, and over the next few weeks we'll have we're going to dig into each of these buckets one at a time and talk about them in more detail. So
absolutely.
Anything else,
Blair?
Blair?
All right. No, I'm good. I wish you. Hey, I hope you have a great rest of your week.